Welcome to my borrowed tree. You will with my borrowed tree. So much democracy when you employer me. You want to win your next election. I can help you win your erection. So much democracy. You will win with modern faculty.
My producer's telling me 2,000 mules, not 3,000 mules. But Dinesh, I bet there were 3,000 mules. I don't know.
Yeah,
I might,
well, 2,000 was kind of the minimum count, and it goes up from there.
Yes.
You know, that's an interesting. I wonder if that will ever be fully investigated. I'm sure that there are people telling Trump, you know, that's in the rearview mirror. You know, you got a lot on your plate. Move forward. Don't look backward. But in some ways, it is important to do a kind of inventory of what really happened.
Yes.
I think Trump would like to do it. And whether his entourage is holding him back, I'm not really sure.
I actually went to the premiere of 2,000 Mules at Mar-a-Lago with you. And I sat right behind you and Trump as we watched this. And Trump was fascinated by it. He sat there and ate popcorn. He ate popcorn and took in every second of it. And yeah, I mean, John James was just on from the state of Michigan. Do we have any answers, Dinesh, about those giant boxes in Detroit being brought in, like huge crates of votes being brought in at 3 a.m.? Have we ever had an answer for that?
Right when that film came out, I called a conservative Republican senator, good friend of ours, and I said, "Hey, come over to our house. Let's watch the film. You make up your own mind." And he just wouldn't text me back. Very odd. And then I finally figured it out. It wasn't that he was afraid the film would be false. He was afraid it would be true, because he was afraid that if it was true, he'd have to do something about it. But if you remember, Benny, basically the 2020 election and January 6th were like the two untouchable issues, at least for a while. And all the mainstream Republicans they'd privately, Dinesh, oh my gosh, he really blew the lid on this stuff. But they were reluctant to take the actions necessary to probe it further, which is what's needed. Yes. So in any event, the thing you mentioned about Trump was hilarious, because when he was watching the film, he was not only taking in the content, he was doing running commentary on the sort of the making of the film. Like, Dinesh, like, where do you get the music? Like, do you buy that? Do you guys do it yourself? He's like, Dinesh, you know, you got a really good movie voice, man. He goes, it's a good thing too, because otherwise you might have to hire some other guy to do the, you know. And I'm like, this is very amusing to me to listen to the former president, now of course president again, doing this kind of analysis of the film on multiple levels. But I think it's because he's a cultural guy, you know, and he was at The Apprentice, so he takes an interest at that level.
So it would be, you know, you did so much work on this. It would be nice to see somebody say, no, we're going to make this a huge issue. And I know we're going to talk about the Middle East and the Dragon's Prophecy and the brand new film, but since we are going to New Jersey tomorrow, you've been proven right, Dinesh. I don't think you get enough credit for this. You've been proven right, and every single scandal, at least 98% of the scandals, have to do with mail-in ballots when you look at what's being charged through the DOJ. We head to New Jersey tomorrow, and there's a story that I just can't get out of my head from Paterson, New Jersey, where this guy, no, that's the wrong one, guys. Get the one out of Paterson, New Jersey. The mayor of Paterson, New Jersey, was caught with his entire campaign team plucking ballots out of mailboxes, ripping them open, changing the votes for him, remailing them. They charged him dead to rights. It's all in the DOJ filing. This happened very quietly, you know, in 2023 and 2024. And they're like, yeah, he probably stole like thousands of votes directly out of people's mailboxes and changed them. There you go. Thank you, guys. We'll put the story up, but the floor is yours, Dinesh, since you're one of the world's experts on this. You've been proven right.
you see these videos. There was a case in Connecticut as well, where if you look at it and you see the videos, you're like, where have I seen this before? Answer 2000 Mules, the movie. And not only that, but if you just do a tracking of the votes going back to Obama, you'll notice that there's a kind of relatively level kind of structure of votes that the Democrats get. There's some variation. Obama gets more in 2008 proportionally than in 2012, but it's all within a range. And then millions of votes show up for Joe Biden in the 2020 election and vanish in 2024. So they show up in this one election. And that is, on the face of it, prima facie, extremely suspect. So yes, I'm quite convinced that there's a lot there. If Kash Patel and his investigative sleuths want to go digging, I urge Kash to get on the case. I'm sure he's got his hands full with a lot of other stuff, but I would love to see. And when I made the film, I issued a kind of challenge, which is, look, go talk to the mules. Like, maybe these guys will have some amazing, never before thought of explanation for why in the middle of the night they're going from like one Dropbox to another with backpacks full of, maybe there is a plausible explanation, but to this day, I have not heard it.
Yeah, and it really would be very like, where were you getting paid? Who's paying you to do this? Like, where'd you get all these ballots? Again, let's talk about the Dragon Prophecy, but I wanted to make the point that Dinesh was the guy who called this out from the start, and it'd be nice to actually see. Do you think that mail-in ballots should be, in conclusion to this subject matter, do you think that mail-in ballots should be banned? Do you think there shouldn't be that opportunity? It seems rife for fraud.
Yeah, remember what we used to have? They used to be called absentee ballots. If you're a military guy, if you're an American posted abroad, you can mail in your ballot. But this was not normalized. This was considered like a special case. But now mail-in ballots are just kind of a way of voting. I think that should be banned. We should go back to the idea of limited exception absentee ballots. And I think this will do a lot to straighten out our ballot fraud process.
Okay. One of my all-time favorite clips was CNN secretly capturing voter fraud, like accidentally capturing voter fraud while doing a man on the street interview. It was hilarious. They I don't know. Have you ever seen this, Dinesh? This is CNN. CNN's like, this is the 2020 election. The guy's in a mask and he's like, let's just go talk to some people and watch what happens.
Only ballot drop box in Cuyahoga County, Ohio. You can see this woman right here casting her vote. Did you vote for Reagan or Jimmy Carter? Carter, okay. We don't want to get too personal with people here, but you can see there's actually a traffic jam.
She has like a stack of ballots. She has like 50 ballots. It's like illegal to vote for anyone else in Ohio. You can only handle your ballot. They have pretty strict laws in Ohio. And she has like 50 ballots. And she's like, I voted for Jimmy Carter. And she has this minivan full of ballots. CNN's like, oh, shit. Oh, back up, quick. We're capturing the fraud live. It's amazing. Anyway, good. We'll keep pushing on that. It's obviously a passion project of the show. Here we go. The Dragon's Prophecy. Here is the film's website, dragonsprophecyfilm.com. Did you just predict the Middle East peace deal, Dinesh?
I wish. The funny thing, Benny, is sometimes you make a film and you have the good luck, or you could call it providence. It's even more timely when it comes out than when you made it. And that's what happens to be the case here. This is a film that is about October 7th. It's about Israel, Hamas, radical Islam, but it's also about biblical archaeology and biblical prophecy. So that is the kind of wide angle lens of considering all this. And I remember when you spoke at Charlie Kirk's funeral service, Debbie and I were in the 5th or 6th row up front, the wonderful kind of evocation of spiritual renewal. This film has that feel to it, and I want it to be part of that renewal. It takes you into some dark places. It's got riveting footage of October 7th. It talks about literally the kind of MO or the sort of modus operandi of the devil himself. But at the same time, it doesn't leave you there. It leaves you on a note of restoration and renewal.
So how should we be viewing this conflict through a spiritual lens, Dinesh? Well,
Jonathan Cahn, who wrote the book called The Dragon's Prophecy, he makes this interesting point. He goes, the war between Israel and Hamas, and October 7th itself, he goes, is an eerie replay or recreation of ancient battles in the Bible between the Israelites and their longtime enemy called the Philistines. Now, interestingly, Philistine, Palestine, same word, same name. It's been kind of transported through history. But Khan's real point is this, that the tactics are also the same. The battle plan is the same. So if I can give an example, there's a hero in the Bible named Samson. Samson represents like the strength of Israel. Samson is captured by the Philistines. They blind him, kind of in the way Israel was, quote, blinded on October 7th. The Bible says that Samson was dragged to Gaza. So Gaza is in the Bible. And it says that when he got there, the people of Gaza said, strip him and bring him out so he can entertain us. Sure enough, right after October 7th, these captives, these hostages, stripped to the waist, paraded in Gaza. People are dancing around them, Allahu Akbar. So Khan makes the striking observation that Samson, think about this, 3,000 years ago, is the first hostage of Gaza. So this is what I'm talking about when I say we're applying a very provocative and interesting analysis that links the events going up in front of us. And we're saying, look, these are historical events and the peace plan, but they might also be biblical events that have been hinted at or charted in this kind of unfolding map of biblical history and also biblical prophecy.
Where will it end? I mean, do you believe that do you believe that this could potentially be a lasting peace in Gaza? I mean, it's been a hell of a war when you look at the status on the ground. How do you think that this ends, Dinesh?
I would say a couple of things. One is that if the Bible is to be believed, there will never be a permanent solution. You notice that other countries, other problems in the world get solved, but this place festers, and it's festered really since the formation of the state of Israel. That being said, I do think that it is not unreasonable to say that God is using Trump in a very profound way to achieve things that previous presidents have, they've attempted. I mean, Nixon attempted it, Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton. Most of those people made very limited headway. In some cases, didn't even move an inch. But here comes Trump, this real estate guy. I think he looks at the rubble in Gaza and he goes, well, I see nice apartments. I see tall buildings, maybe a Trump tower, people going to work, high-tech firms, peace, prosperity. So let's give them that option. Let's give them that fork in the road. Now, maybe it's too twisted. Maybe there's too much indoctrination. Maybe some of them say we love blood. So maybe in the end, it won't work. But I am hopeful, and I mean this not just in a political, but also in a spiritual sense, that there is, in fact, an enduring peace in that region.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, that's the moral imperative, and nobody wants more hostages or children to be slaughtered or indiscriminate bombings or Christian churches to be bombed, right? Like nobody wants that, and more importantly, I don't want my country dragged into that, right? I don't want my country dragged into more forever war. And I think there's a moral imperative for my children who are American, to not have more conflict in the Middle East. I've had a bellyful. I think everyone's done with that, and we don't want more of that. In
the connection of the civilian casualties, we have this line in the movie. I found it from the former Israeli Prime Minister Golda Meir. She says, we can forgive the Arabs for killing our children, but we can't forgive them for making us kill their children. I mean, think of what a interesting and in some ways kind of profound observation this is. I do think that there is no defense for civilian casualties on either side. And I think Trump's instinct, which is like, listen, we can't solve it all, but let's bring it to a stop. Let's see if we can have a modicum and the ingenuity of bringing in the Muslim countries. I mean, this began with the Abraham Accords, but now the idea of an international authority dominated by the Muslim countries like Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, the Gulf Kingdoms. I mean, this is, I think, a way of finding a solution that doesn't make Islam into the problem, but rather tries to find a practical way to bring the conflict to an end.
Yeah, I think it's a much larger, is Islam the problem? What is the actual problem? That's in the longer 3-hour podcast that I look forward to doing with you one of these days, Dinesh. 3 hours is something that you spent with Donald Trump here watching your movie. We actually have a clip. We have a photo. We have the photo. There's you and Trump watching. We have it. We took it. Here's the photo. There you go. We can prove it. This was a couple of years ago at Mar-a-Lago. Trump taking in the Dinesh documentary 2000. mules. I did, before we go, and obviously the Dragon's Prophecy film, you can go and watch it right now. The website is thedragonprophecyfilm.com. It's in the description. I did want to touch on one other thing, Dinesh, that was a bit of a crossroads for you, a fascinating thing that perhaps only you could comment on, which is the original weaponization of government by Barack Obama against you. And everybody said, like, Barack Obama, clean as a whistle. He would never weaponize the federal government. And Joe Biden didn't weaponize the federal government, of course. And this is just a wholesale lie, and you're living proof of that. Sort of your reaction to that line, that narrative that is being ferreted out right now in the corporate press.
Right after I released my film on Obama, and the real heresy of that film was not that it was a critique of Obama. I went inside of Obama's world. I mean, I was at his family homestead in a small village called Kogelo in Kenya. I asked for an interview with his grandmother, and she said, "I will do it if you bring me a goat." And so in that film, you can see me dragging a very unwilling goat to the interview. I interviewed Obama's brother living in a slum outside of Nairobi, in Slumdog Millionaire conditions, and so I made him look bad. Sure enough, 5 weeks after the film comes out, first of all, I'm being denounced on a website called barackobama.com. That tells you something. And then the FBI is like banging on my door. So this is what launched my case. At the time, I thought, I'm kind of one of these really clueless immigrants. I should have known there's like a big target on my back. I've irritated this vindictive narcissist. I saw it as a one-off. I had no idea it was the opening chapter of a story that would include, Papadopoulos, Carter Page, Michael Flynn, ultimately Trump. So, I was like the preface of that novel, so to speak. And, yes. But, looking back on it, the one benefit I got out of it is it taught me right up close the gangsterization that it was happening inside the U.S. government and in the Democratic Party. And so I became a different kind of conservative almost overnight. Before that, I was kind of an academic conservative. We need to educate the other side. We need to give them facts and ideas. They're ignorant. We need to enlighten them. But then I realized, they're not just ignorant. These people are wicked. They will actually stoop to nothing. If those guys, by the way, Eric Holder and that gang, if they could have put me away for 20 years for a small contribution to a college, they'd have done it. So once you see that steely look in their eyes, you begin to realize what you're up against. And I think in a way, it's taken the Republican Party many, many years to take stock of what has actually happened. I think when it happened to Trump, people were like, okay, we get the picture. And we are a little bit of a different party now as a result. And it's a good thing.
Yeah, it makes me want to scream, dude. Like, honestly, Dinesh, it makes me want to grab people by their collars and shake them on our side when they're like, Jimmy Kimmel was put in timeout by ABC for 4 nights. And then the scolds, I would call them literally the woke scolds on our side on the right, were like, could you imagine if Democrats censored conservatives? Yeah, I can imagine, you dumbasses. Like, yes, I can, actually, because they censored me. They censored they ripped our executive producer, ALX, off the internet for nothing. Right? They destroyed the careers of so many people, including Charlie Kirk. And now not destroyed his career, but they did literally target Charlie, target Turning Point. They went after all of our social media. We have the documents to prove it from the CIA, from the FBI, that they were coming after me and Charlie. And so, yes, I actually do. Yes, I can imagine what would happen. And it was far worse than us being put in timeout and still getting our $16 million a year contract like Jimmy Kimmel has. It was, it was a legitimate destruction of our ability to speak and engage online. That's what they were doing to us. And so it pisses me off. You were one of the original, you were one of the original people that they went after politically because you had the wrong political views, or you pissed them off just enough that they were going to just try and destroy your life. You were the precursor to all of this stuff that happened to Trump. And so, the real ones know. Right.
We have to do to them what they have been doing to us.
Correct.
Otherwise, they will never stop. So if they want to call it retribution, I say that retribution is basically kind of a big man's word for justice.
Yes, that's exactly right. And this is how you take down the mob, actually. Like, how you take down the mob is you go and you use RICO and you take down the mob for their criminal activity. And
Exactly.
that's how you take down the mob. Yeah.
I love seeing on, they keep saying, Trump is doing vengeance. And I go, okay, but can you tell us what he's doing vengeance for? What might you have done to him that might want to make him feel in a mood of vengeance? Spell that out for us, will you, CNN?
Yeah. Vengeance would be actually bankrupting the Bidens, and would be hoaxing the Bidens, and would be putting, shooting bullets, God forbid. That's what the left has been doing to us. I would never advocate for that, but like I'm saying, like, do you people have any idea like what your side is doing right now? There's an attorney general candidate that's saying, let's go kill Republicans and their children. Like, what do you mean? Of course there's a problem here, and you have to put a stop to it. Right. And so I'm totally in favor of what the DOJ is doing. They can't do enough of it. I mean, it's really important, obviously, because otherwise you do descend into sectarian violence. You do descend into civil war. And I don't want to see that happen. Your parting thoughts on James Comey? He's been mewling and crying about all of this. I know he was most likely involved in what happened to you, Dinesh.
Well, I'd like to see. He was, in fact, the FBI director. I mean, it was initially Mueller, then he handed the baton to Comey, a very bad guy. I'd like to see all these guys. I mean, Brennan, Clapper, this entire gang of consiglieres. Of course, I think the ultimate authorities were Hillary, but most of all, Obama. I'm not sure if those two will ever be held to account. But let's start at least with Comey and his other comrades. That would be a good start. And also, Benny, if I may say so, with regard to the film, the dragonsprophecyfilm.com, that's the website. It's streaming. It's available for DVD. I think you'll be profoundly moved if you watch the film. So check it out.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, Dinesh D'Souza. Here's also his account on X. You can follow him there. And, of course, the link to the Dragon's Prophecy is in the description. Ladies and gentlemen, Dinesh is followed by 5.2 million Americans. Thank you very much, Dinesh.
Thanks, Benny. Always a pleasure.